The Higher Education Act of 1965, signed into law by President Lyndon B. Johnson as part of his Great Society agenda, is a large federal law that established financial aid programs and defined categories of degrees. While the law itself did not explicitly list nursing by name in the professional degree section, it defined a professional degree broadly as one requiring advanced study beyond a bachelor's degree to enter a recognized profession. Over time, nursing programs were included under this umbrella by regulation and practice. Today, included in the One Big Beautiful Bill Act, the Department of Education wants to erase that recognition, not by changing the law, but by changing the list. Dr. Shelia Spurlock, also known as the nursing professor, discusses the controversy and its potential impact on nursing students and healthcare as it exists today.
Hi, it's the nursing professor. I want to comment on the article in Newsweek that was put out on Thursday, and it was titled, "Nursing is no longer considered as a professional degree by the Trump administration." Well, I think that title is a little bit clickbait because, yes, it does evoke an emotion out of all of us. Like, what do you mean we're not a profession anymore? But that's really not what the article is about. The article does impact us, and it impacts us drastically when we're talking about nursing with advanced degrees and how it's going to be affordable for you to get an advanced degree. So it is a part of that one big beautiful bill that, folks at home for the last 2 months almost broke the economy because, people had to stand in food lines and all of that, but we're going to leave that for a whole nother topic. So it is a part of that bill. And it wasn't highlighted because the highlight kept being on health insurance costs, which is also equally as important because all of these things can drastically impact our healthcare system, which is hanging on by a thread. And nursing is the foundation of our healthcare system because not one door, not one acute care setting, not one long-term care setting, doors can open without nursing. And so this is why this is a problem, because if we can't get people to go into getting an advanced degree, who's going to teach our nursing students? Because dollar for dollar, it already doesn't equate to have an advanced degree and what your income is. So if you can't get funding for it, who is actually going to go into it? That's where the biggest problem is going to come in, because we already have a nurse educator shortage for sure. And so my suspicion would be less and less people will actually go into it because they're not going to be able to afford to go into it. And that's going to be a travesty. And then what will happen is it ultimately trickles down into the number of nurses that are at the bedside. So then it affects patient-staff ratios as well. And so then there's a possibility of compromising care because people can't take care of these large number of patients in the bed. So there's a big trickle-down effect that can happen from all of this. But I wanted to really talk about the emotional component of the title of that article, which is troubling to me. Because for people who don't really understand nursing as a profession, like people in the public, it gives validation just by the title of that article that, oh yeah, I know nursing isn't a profession that, you just got a bunch of people at the bedside that's caring for you. Nursing is a profession. Let's not forget that. The trouble here, why we should be in the uproar, is that it's not enough funding to get an advanced degree. So what can we do? We're going to have to look for money elsewhere. Right? These private donors, scholarships, private loans even. Many times people look at private loans as being a bad thing for education, and it can be quite taxing. But the truth of it is this, is if you still have student loans, federal student loans, after about 10 years of graduating, that is a drain on your pocket as well, because it's almost like it's almost like a loan shark because interest keeps accumulating. And, when you don't get used to paying that bill and you keep going deferments and forbearances and all those things, those dollar amounts keep climbing. Even though you might have borrowed $20,000, you look up and all of a sudden you owe $50,000. That is the truth of the matter. So, let's think of something else. Let's do something else to help us be able to continue to get these advanced degrees, because they are essential to our profession and letting us be able to educate students as they come through, not capping the number of students in a clinical because we don't have adjunct to teach them, things like that. All right. In addition, not only nurse education, but also the nurse anesthetist, the nurse practitioners, it's going to be quite impactful on those particular specialties as well. And let's not talk about the C-suite. And this is something else that I think might be going on, because many times if you look at who's leading these organizations now, they are nurses with an advanced degree of a DNP frequently. And so maybe that's what it's about, because I really think that there might be an attack on female predominant professions that are being looked at. Because when you look at those areas that will be considered a profession as far as funding, okay, then they typically are male-dominated professions. So let's know this. Nursing is the backbone of our healthcare system. We're not going to let it break. So somehow, some way, we're going to have to get this together. And that's going to mean we have to band together in order to continue to make certain that there is a roadway in for people to become nurses. I was one of those first to graduate in my family with an advanced degree. And so that shouldn't be abnormal. If you want to go to school, there should be ways that you can find your funding. And so the call should be to our organizations to get together because volume speaks louder than one person. And let's figure out some way that we can actually address this. But I just wanted to take a moment to talk about it, because initially I was like, what do you mean nursing is not a profession? But when you really look at that article, it's not saying that. It's more about the funding that will be decreased for our profession, which is unfair. Don't get me wrong. I'm not saying that it's unfair. It's not fair, but it is unfair is what I'm actually saying. But I don't like that title of that article, Newsweek, because it really is clickbait. And it really does possibly give the public an idea that nursing is not a profession, in which it really, 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 really is. So students, keep coming. Let's try to find you some funding. Look for schools that have private donors and benefactors and things like that. And let's get you educated and get out there. All right. Have a good day. Bye for now.